Good morning, everyone. How are we? Nice to see you all. So welcome to Customer Day. Yeah, I'm Peter Layzell. I'm General Manager of TSM. There'll be a bit about TSM and Touchstone and what that means, because people still get a bit confused about our branding and what that all stands. Quick bit of housekeeping first of all, because I'm legally obliged to do that apparently. So if there's no planned fire alarm, if you hear the fire alarm go off, it's unplanned, you can follow me very briskly up the stairs, because I'll be the first one realising it's a fire. Hopefully you know where the bathrooms are. Mobiles, I think we all know the etiquette of these things. If it's on quiet, great. Don't turn them off, because you will need them in about half an hour. One or few terrified looking faces already thinking, what the hell does that involve? But yeah, it's a little online survey, you'll be fine. So that's the housekeeping bit. So, Customer Day. What is Customer Day? Why do we have a Customer Day? It's changed a little bit over the years, and I'm going to reminisce a bit. Once upon a time we had a Customer Day because we wanted people to understand the new function, what was in the next upgrade, and it was a very product-orientated conversation and audience. And it had its merit, and we still have parts of that we've retained today. But also we've changed a lot. We've changed, our conversations have changed. Now we're speaking to people more about services advisory and what you can do, the art of the possible. What are you not doing with your product? What is the bits that we haven't told you about? So it's not just a case of there's a new function. It's like, you know, how are we handling ESG or risk and compliance and things like that. So the narrative has changed a lot for us. So this is a lot of things to us. It's talking about product, it's talking about our relationships, our partnerships, our people, our direction of travel, the hot topics in the industry. And I get to read a lot of requirements documents. I get to read, unfortunately, still a lot of paper-based RFPs. That's just a joy we have of our world. So I know at a pretty granular level, question 398 of InfoSec, what people need. So there's a lot of that to kind of get across. We also have an audience where we've got customers, we've got affiliate partners, we've got people who have proactives, people who have our valuer. So trying to pitch that at one level is almost a little tricky, and hopefully we'll nail it, but it's still work in progress in that sense. So bear with us if we're trying to find that right level. Okay, so that's why we have a Customer Day. First thing I should have said really is welcome and thank you for coming, because I recognise how the world has changed. Once upon a time, you had a choice of going to the office or a day out or a conference. And we all had that trip into town still. You might even got to the same tube station, but turned left, not right. And that was an easy decision to make. If you've come here and you could have been at home working from home, that's a different kettle of fish. That's something you've actually made a decision to do, and it makes it doubly nice that you have done. I was very proud to see a nice full room. We're not a massive company. We're not, the SAPs of this world where there's 5,000 people in an arena. And I've been to some of those conferences and they are frankly terrifying. And the idea of being on stage with that would be a whole different story. But we are, say, a relatively small company. This is a nice size for us. 50 people or so in a room. It's more personable, you get to meet more people. And so that's the number one reason why I wanted this to happen again. Because there are people I've just already met this morning, I've met several times. I've had 5 minutes and 5 minutes, and it's on a Zoom call or it's talking at the end of a steerco meeting. To have that chance to have a conversation, especially as the day goes on, and there's hopefully a beer at the end of my day somewhere where I can enjoy that and relax a little bit. I'm certainly in those one or two candidates who will be joining me. So that's a nice chance to just network. And there's networking in the classic sense of, I don't know you, what do you do and how do you go about doing your day? Then there's people we know who just don't get that time to spend with them. So a whole day with our staff, not all of them, some people are still keeping the lights on hopefully, but there's a nice opportunity to sit together, talk together and enjoy the day. So that's the scene setting and why we do a Customer Day. That all makes sense. So it wouldn't be an event if I weren't trying to talk through the agenda, and I will have to keep turning to the screen because my chances of reading that are absolutely zero. So you have me for the first part, setting the scene. We will have 2 sessions in this main room, and I will talk about what they are in a second, so I won't just dive into them straight away. The first thing that everyone wants to know is when's lunch? Let's be honest, sitting there thinking, how long am I going to be in this room for? When to get a chance to pop out, make a phone call. So we keep the sessions around 45 minutes, maybe 1 or 2 or 30 minutes. Reasonably punchy, relatively short. I have sat in enough conferences with 2-hour presentations, and you start to lose the will to live, let's be honest, you do. So we get a mix of customers telling their story, a mix of our own consultants telling their story. That's the blend I was talking about earlier, trying to keep it, active. And I laughed when I first saw this reference to pick and mix. I am of an age where pick and mix says Woolworths to me. And a bit like Woolworths, you won't pay for these either. And I'm glad, thank you, Michael. I'm glad someone got you. And thought, is it just me as a junior kleptomaniac, or is it just something we all did? Yes, I think something we all did, a handful of blackjacks. That really is dating myself. So we have lunch at 12 till 1. Afterwards, this room and the Allgate room will serve as breakout sessions. So these are very much, as you can see, I think it's a pointer here, but I'm close enough to do it myself. The Proactis audience and those who are interested in the Proactis product, we have 2 sessions on the left-hand side of the screen in this room, and then more generically, try not to be making a pun, with AI and ESG as a breakout session. So we'll go into those details a little while. Then we'll have the coffee break and it's a good half an hour. It's not a tight 10 minutes to dash out about. It's have more conversations, do more of that networking. 2 more sessions to follow that, and then a panel. And we've learned how much fun we have with the panel, because it's a nice chance for speakers to return to answer those questions. We've got a mixture of customers and some consulting partners and associates, and this is where we have a bit of fun. I'll leave that there because I think it's one of those situations where the questions are not loaded. We have some pre-prepared. We also like to have a few thrown at us. So that's a bit of freestyling in there, which is always fun. That will come to closing remarks. I will be the person stood between you and either home, more phone calls, emails, or a drink, not particularly in that order maybe. And I won't be wanting to spend 15 minutes trying to hold you up between that. So that'll be reasonably tight. And then we're at the networking and drinks afterwards. So that's the high level of the agenda. Everyone's hopefully comfortable with that. So what are the sessions we have this morning? Straight after me, Stuart from DCC, the Data Communications Company. If anybody knows the organisation, if you have a smart meter, that is sitting on that network. Karen and I were at DCC Supplier Conference yesterday. Hugely informative as to how that is run. I'll perhaps reference that later on. So Stuart will talk through his Valuer journey. Straight after that, still in here, Dave Wilson. Like affectionately Dave, he's never David to us, and talk about procurement sustainability. And he is our SIPS Level 6 resident expert in the room. So he has that topic, and that's how it takes us through to lunch. Afterwards, the Proactis stream, Christina Tooley, what's new for Proactis users? Again, referencing that there is still this requirement, what's happening in the product, that's not even more product. And if I just follow that stream down into the second half, most of you who know Proactis team will know Russ and Simon. They've got a double act together talking about dashboards and reporting, and really, when do we think project is operational strategic? Nice mixed bag there. I'm quite keen to see this myself, how they do both those things in the tight 30 minutes, not steal each other's time. So that'd be fun. On the flip side, Gen AI, can't avoid that if you go to an author conference. We're not avoiding the subject. We like to be a little bit pragmatic and say, what does that really mean to you? We're not suggesting there are robots going to take your jobs away tomorrow and the fear factor of all that. But Gen AI is here to stay. It is in the products, it's in the platform, it's in their thinking. And then Russ and Simon have got a tough act to compete with Bintel and Ryan for your affections and attention, but that's exactly what they're trying to do. So yeah, Bintel and Laura will be talking about ESG. And if there's one thing that's now risen to the top 5, maybe top 3 entries on an RFP, requirements, conversations we're having, it's around ESG. So that's our content up to the tea break, and after tea, John has this wonderfully snappy title. Yes, I didn't write this for him, but Cloud Strategy and Integration Design Concepts. Yep, I'm looking around the room and seeing who's already slitting their wrists on that one. But that's all right, John, you're very welcome. Now, why am I now, I'm not setting up for failure because he knows his stuff, and there's a reason why I put this in here. I looked back at an agenda we had for a customer day about 10 years ago. There's no mention of cloud. It was about on-premise, and it was a little bit archaic almost in looking at the topics. Every conversation we have these days is like, where does that fit in the cloud strategy? Where's it going to be hosted? How do I integrate with my ERP system, which is similarly in the cloud? How do I get the data from these 10 different data sources into that cloud? How do I get these things working coherently as a strategy? So if you're talking procurement, it's almost like you can't not talk about cloud, how it integrates. We don't put any procurement system in without integration. Simply by default, there's always an ERP to be fed. So this is dry as that subject matter, apologies again, John, might sound. I think it's something we should cover and make sure we have some understanding from it. And then, I'm looking at Rob here because he's going to be doing the wrapping up of the main sessions. Good friend, associate, ISG, Rob Scriven, head of ISG. And those who know their news will be going, this is interesting. I won't steal his thunder, because you can already work ahead, and no plot spoilers here. The fact that the session's called Lessons from the Field should give you all you need to know. You know, sometimes looking back retrospectively, or what would you have done if you had your time again? That's a powerful message, rather than someone sitting there going, I just bought this and it sounds like it'd be great, I've got much to tell you about it, but you know, hope that's going to be fun. Lessons from the Field is a really powerful story, and I'm very pleased that Rob's here to tell it, so thank you. Then we're into the panel, as I mentioned. So Helen, now I forget where you're sitting in the room now, Helen. Thanks, Helen. So Helen from Art Procurement will be hosting that. I'm doubly pleased. One, we have Helen from Art Procurement here in the first place. Terrific. Second, saves me the job of hosting the panel, so that's extra bonus. And so, yeah, Rob and Stuart will reappear again. And then we have Richard and Jothi. Now, Richard and Jothi are good friends of ours. Working in the consulting world, it's lovely to have that connection where we're talking services advisory. We have moved beyond being that implementation team that know the software and put the software in. We are very much more connected now to the advisory world, change management, maturity assessments, modelling of what the good should look like, which makes our job a lot easier when we come along to then make those things actually happen. And we don't divorce those things anymore, so that's hugely important to us. So that's the panel. So it wouldn't be a presentation without a logo slide. We all do this. And I always stop for a second because someone wants to find their own logo, because you all do it. So there's a mixture there. It's not split by what they've deployed or what the product is. It's just literally an example of our clients. And it's been growing over the last 20 years. And there's some fantastic names on there. And I just want to reference this current financial year, because these are the most recent names in the last 6 months or so. And we're just very proud of the fact that we're not a massive company which has a new client every week. We haven't got 300 consultants where every day they're shifting around. We do 6 to 8 in a year. We very carefully focus on those projects. They're important to us. We've got that sort of growth pattern. So every customer is important, and not everyone says that, but we don't do that many. We look after them and we retain them. And some names on here have been with us 20 plus years. We have a 98% retention rate over the last 20 years, which is pretty phenomenal, really. So I won't try and tell the complete story because I might be robbing some people's presentation in some ways, but IPC, Michael, the Independent Purchasing Consortia, I was trying to mangle this one. Those who know Subway and it's owned by franchisees, the European Purchasing Consortium is the device for all the purchasing for those franchisees in Europe. So I look at that and I read Subway, which makes it easy for me to understand. OVO Energy, household name, most of us will understand what they do as an energy provider. Vitality, equally another household name, health and life insurance. Pop quiz, who knows what Toms do? Excellent, they'd be so pleased. No, that's what I was hoping someone was going to say, and that's what every answer's been so far. I said, you know what they do? No, and this is, some people might have close to the heart, this is a Danish organisation or a chocolate and licorice manufacturer. Yay! Now we have the interest, I mention it because if you go through airports in Scandi, it's kind of like a household name. It's kind of like the Cadbury's or the Bourneville if you're in the UK. It's not a Mars or that, but it's a brand in that region. I'm excited not least because it's chocolate and licorice, and why wouldn't you be? But also that's based in Copenhagen. Now I actually had another logo on this slide, which I took off this morning because the ink isn't quite dry. The ink isn't quite dry on the contract. And that's another one which is actually in Norway. Now why am I referencing this? It's kind of showing our breadth and our maturity. We've got a whole host of organisations, but the last 2 contracts, 1.5, are in Scandi. So that's just showing we have the ability, we are trusted by the partner in question, the author in question, to deliver in the Norwegian and Denmark areas. So that's a little bit about the customers. And we're very grateful for those companies who are represented today. Obviously not all here, that'd be a much bigger room required. But we love and trust our customers to tell a great story, and they're involved today as well. Next thank yous to our sponsors. Now, before I start talking about this reference, this is the first time we've had our author and technology partners with us. And the pushback previously was it should just be about the customers. You don't want people selling. You don't want sessions from authors going, we're the better than the next one. And it can get a bit dry, and we appreciate that. Personally, I'm glad they're here for several reasons. One, it shows their support for us. Two, in that classic kind of breakout area, it's a softer sell, it's a softer introduction. You go and have conversations with them. They're not up here giving you a 45-minute slideshow, but they'll be happily talk about what they do. So I like the fact that we've now got them here and supporting us. So, in no order of importance, to be really correct, otherwise I'll be slaughtered afterwards, but let's just read as it goes across the page. So, Avalia, Tim, Avalia, thank you. Avalia, most of you who are obviously using that product know this full well. If you're practice, you might not be so familiar. If you look at the Gartner Forrester Magic Quadrants, it's a sort of top leader in the whole source to pay space. It was a company formed in 2000, code written from scratch, true SaaS. So it's got, this is an emerging name. 4th Street, I spoke to David and George earlier, and forgive me, David and George are probably, are they still outside or in the room now? Probably outside, manning the booth. Okay, they are. I'll mangle their pitch by saying, if you want to be a category manager, I'm pinching your quote here, by the way, Carl. Hope you don't mind. I'm going to borrow your words and get them wrong. How would you make a category manager in 90 minutes? You would use 4th Street. Is that fair? Yeah.
I think that's 4th Street's
pitch. Yeah, well, it's not on the banner, so they haven't really, they haven't done it yet. So yeah, it's very much that category management. How would you go out and find a new vendor amongst 2,000 vendors and distill that list down and have it criteria-led, and then say, look, you've got 5 things to do. These are the people to speak to. So that's a powerful message. And then there's practice, and say last but not least, by all stretch. We've been with practice for a long time as in relationship that we were arguably their first partner. That's always been debated. I think there was 2 signed in the same fortnight, and it's never quite sure who was first to the signature. But we've been partnered for them for over 20 years. The majority of our client base, given the time we've been working with them, are working with Proactis. And so that's another, very mature, very robust. If you talk about P2P, a lot of our clients have P2P connected and integrated with their financials. Obviously, we're part of the Touchstone Group. We're going to go in a minute. So a lot of our customers are using Practice over Sun Financials because that's our DNA. We all came from a finance background, and we were sold people's Sun, and then we put Practice on top. So very pleased they're here. Thank you, guys. They've all made a small contribution. I say small, it's not thousands and thousands, but rather than get into the heavyweight, you must sponsor and come along world, there's something very close to our hearts. And at a group level, we are sponsoring brain tumour research, and it's something that's quite close to our family. We are a family, and there's an instance in our own sort of family where this has very closely affected a member, and so we are asking and have received donations to Brain Tumour Trust research. So that's a nice thing as well. It's just making sure we're supporting a group initiative, and that's where the money's gone. So thank you to our sponsors. Now, big thanks to the team. I chuckled when I saw this because I haven't seen the updated version, and we had a photo session taken earlier, and some of these are professionally taken. Some, hopefully your new one's a little bit less like you took it in the coal mine, but that's, So this is the team. Now they're not all here. Clearly, people are still back at office and on customer site, but we have got a good number of people. So if you recognise any of these faces, these are the TSM team. There's 30 of us now. That's grown quite substantially from where we were sort of 5-6 years ago. Very proud of this team. Love them all to bits. We've all been together quite a long time. I can point at a number of people and go, 20 years, 17 years, 20 years. I'm not going to say which ones because there's some of them. Perhaps I can always pick on Karen because Karen does her own introductions. She's been 30 years. She clearly started when she was 12, so that's kind of.
I would say 5.
5, yeah. There's a whole thing about child slave labour, and anyway, so that's the team. You recognise these people, but they are just as much a part of today because this is their chance to have conversations with you, meet you in person. I've already seen 2 of your conversations start with, so nice to finally meet you, because they're 2 years of working on a project via Zoom, especially in the pandemic period. So there have been some first-time meetings. That's the team, very proud of them. There's me clicking ahead. Right, so again, I think everyone has this sort of life cycle chart, and I use it only to explain 2 things. One, let's start with the obvious, the rocket ship, okay? It's a bit of an in-house joke, so thank you, marketing team. I know this makes you chuckle. I perhaps have one too many times talked about this being a bit of a rocket ride, to the point now it's actually got its own in-joke, and there's a rocket on every slide. So we, as Touchstone, as some of you will know us, was back in 1982, and that's how long, we haven't all been there since 1982, but Keith Birch, our founder, majority shareholder, chairman, is still at the group, still driving from the helm. Does a bit more time to himself these days, let's be honest, but he's earned the right. So that was since 82. In 1998, we became a group, and that's when we had the financials division and our Microsoft Dynamics division together as a business. Importantly, milestones on this was, there you go, 2001, practice as a partner. So we've been supporting those guys for a very long time. It was 2012 when Touchstone Spend Management, there's the clue for the TSM bit, became a business unit in its own right. And that was because we were recognising that you can only spend so long being part of the financials team, being those specialists you go and speak to in the corner that might know what P2P is, yeah, to then being, there's a document here which talks about supplier onboarding and contracts and sourcing and risk and governance and, and then that specialism was so clearly needed that we actually carved it away to be its own business unit, separate from being those specialist guys in the Sun team over there somewhere. So that was a big breakthrough for us. In 2020, we signed up with Valio as a partner. Part of the expansion process, partly because of the rise of cloud, lots of reasons why this was an important decision for us. I won't try and do too much more of an advert. The year after we were a partner, we were Partner of the Year globally, which was some achievement straight from scratch. And I mention it because we're hugely proud of that. In 23, we did the rebranding, the spend management done right, strapline, the TSM from Touchstone Spend Management, and that was a bit of a chance for us to all say, where are we going with this? What's the trajectory? And then 2024, well, nothing's happened this year, so we won't mention that. Actually, no. There's been so much happened this year, it's been a bit of a rocket ride, apparently. So we were shortlisted for awards, we've been a lot of different events, we've had exceptional new projects, we've gone into new geographies, into new verticals, added team members. It's been, I wouldn't say a breakout year, because my CFO might dispute that, but his definition and mine might be slightly different on that criteria. But that's where we arrive. So hopefully that helps. Part of Touchstone Group, the group has 155 employees and 400 customers. We've got 30 employees and 80 customers, just to give you a sense of where we are in that big scheme of things. So, I won't perhaps explain every one of those. The point really is we now have a presence, we have a brand, we have been shortlisted. We were twice shortlisted for Procurement Leaders for Procurement Consultancy Award, once shortlisted for SIPs. On both occasions we had a chance to all scrub up and go out for an awards evening, which is lovely, we'll enjoy those. Always fun. But we've also been at PS&I, Sourcing Champions. Catherine's, there you are. Oh, hi. Sorry, I'm glad you can make it, thank you. Nice to have someone coming from Amsterdam. So last night or this morning? This morning, wonderful, thank you. So we were at the a sustainability conference in Amsterdam earlier in the year. Given that the whole day was about sustainability, that is a clue as to where the drivers were and the conversations. I wish I could remember every part of the main stories that each of the speakers told. There were some superb speakers. There's an example which I might pick out later on, but I won't waste too much time now. We've been travelling. Valio put on a lovely show in Paris and Versailles. This one's a private little joke. This is me and Rob in the Valio version in Miami. Yeah, I know it's a tough life, but yeah. So, but that was another example of supporting TSM and being invited by Valio to come tell ISG story over in Miami. So that was quite fun. So what else do we do? We have a series of events, reasonably small, focused networking events. And I'm old school. I always used to think networking was, I need to be speaking to people who are going to want to buy something. And if they're not buying something, why are they here? Okay, it's my bad, but that's just old school thinking. And then seeing how we are in a world now of how do we get to network, and it's not the person perhaps you speak to that day, it's who else they know and industry experts, and all. I'm just describing networking to you guys.